Hello. Today we are gonna make a tier list for the Roblox game, Toilet Tower Defense. If you want to make your own tier list, check the description. Let's start with Large Scientist Cameraman. Large Scientist Cameraman is the only healer in the game, but its damage isn't that good, so it's gonna get a high B tier. Next up is Scientist Cameraman. It's the only farm in the game, but it's expensive with not too much money output, so it's gotta go on low S tier. Next up is Titan TV Man. Its AoE is very wide with high DPS, making it great for crowd control and dealing with small, large units, but it is expensive, so it's gonna go on mid S tier. Next up is Titan Speakerman. It was pretty good until the mech was made, but it's still pretty good with its range, DPS, and efficient cost, so it's gonna go on low S tier. Next up is the Mech Cameraman. It's a great support with its slowing debuff on enemies, and has great DPS, range, and price, so it's gonna go on high S tier. Next up is the Ninja Cameraman. It's the cheapest legendary, making it good to start with, but later on in the round it's not so useful, so it's gonna go on high A tier. Next up is Large TV Man. Its AoE and fast attack makes it also a good starter like Large Cam, but its range is low and its cost is high, so it's gonna go on low B tier. Next up is Large Cameraman. It's a great starting tower for any match with its low price and fast attack, but after the first 10 plus waves it's not that great, so it's gotta go on high B tier. Next up is Large Speakerman. It has decent damage, and has a low price but can't defend on its own much later on, so it's gotta go on mid C tier. Next up is Surveillance Camerawoman. It's cheap and has the second highest range with fast attacks, and alright damage. In later rounds though, it starts to struggle, so it's going to go on mid B tier. Next up is TV Man. It's cheap, has AoE, and is a good start, but that's about it, so it's going to go on high C tier. Next up is Cameraman. It's only an uncommon, so it's not that good, but it's at least better than Speakerman, so it's going to go on mid D tier. Next up is Camerawoman. It's not that good, but it is cheap, and has alright damage, so it's going to go on mid E tier. Next up is Speakerman. It's just a starting unit, so it's only good for Toilet City, so it's going to go on high E tier. Next up is Titan Cameraman. It has the highest DPS in-game with decent pricing, and the best range out of all units, so it's going to go on high S tier. Next up is Engineer Cameraman. This is mostly a guess, but it seems great at face value, due to it being able to deal with enemies that slip by with its summoned units, so it's going to go on mid S tier. And finally the TV Woman. Its burn with slow debuff makes it great at support, especially that it's cheap and has AoE. The downside is it costs Robux and has okay DPS, so it's going to go on mid S tier. Here is the final tier list. That's all, bye.